Geekus. We are your hosts. I am Joe.
And I'm Randy.
This is episode 13 of our podcast, and the date is Thursday, December 3rd, 2020. And today we're going to start with something a little new. We actually had somebody leave us some voicemails. John Allen Large at the Red Dice Diaries. I'm going to go ahead and play those. They're all under a minute, so I'm going to play all three.
Cool.
So, starting with number one.
Hey there, guys. This is John from the Red Dice Diaries. Just thought I'd drop you a quick voicemail to let you know that I've just subscribed to your podcast and I'm listening through your back catalogue now. So you'll probably be getting a few voicemails off me over the next day or two. Just listened to your first episode where you're talking about how you got into gaming and your early experiences, and I thought it was very interesting. I always love to hear the different ways that people get into gaming and how their sort of opinions and ideas on the games form. So I thought that was good stuff. I'm just going to start listening to your next episode now, and like I said, I'll probably drop you a few more voicemails over the next few days. Anyway, enjoyed the stuff, guys. Good job. Keep it up. Take care, and I'll catch you soon.
So that was his first message, which was great. Said we did a good job, which...
Hey, I like that.
I like that a lot. So
I tell you, I listen to John and Hannah a lot, and I really appreciate the Red Dice Diaries. I would encourage everyone to listen to it. It's a nice medium to short length podcast, whereas ours tends to be super long. They get a lot of information in a short bit and have a variety of different types of episodes. But a shout out to John and Hannah. They do a great job. And thanks for listening, John.
Definitely thanks. And thanks for the message. Here's the next two are one message. Anchor only allows for a minute or less. So here we go.
Yep.
Hey there, guys. It's John again from the Red Dice Diaries. Told you you'd probably get a few more voicemails from me. I've just been listening to your very special episode from March. And one of the things you said in there sort of really struck me. I enjoyed the episode as a whole, but when you were talking about the sort of the amount of separation between yourself and your character, where you can't ever know what someone would actually think facing a dragon, but you can sort of, there's a degree of separation between the actual person sat down in a comfortable room or whatever rolling dice and what would actually be felt if you were actually in that position yourself. And I think you're absolutely right. That's why it always makes me laugh when people start getting really into the whole sort of immersion thing. And I'm not poo-pooing immersion altogether, but I think at the end of the day, where people sat around throwing some dice, whether that's online or in person. So there's always going to be that gap between the player and the character, which is, I think, inevitably going to lead to disappointment if you're someone who likes to really try and put themselves in the shoes of the character and really sort of delve into their psychology and stuff like that, because honestly, I don't think it's 100% possible. And to be honest, I'm quite glad of that gap. Much as I enjoy playing someone kicking in the doors and taking names and going into a dungeon, I'm not sure in real life I'd love to be crawling through some crap encrusted stone dungeon with danger on every side and traps that can kill me as soon as look at me. Or like you say, if unluckily I'm a wizard, some sort of goblin farts in my general direction and that's it, I'm gone. So to be honest, I'm quite glad of that gap. But I thought it was an interesting point you brought up. Very much enjoyed the episode. I'm going to get back to listening to some more. Take it easy.
All right. So that was both of the messages the second two messages that he sent that were actually one split. Anyway, it was pretty cool. The necessary degree of separation is what he called. I'm not sure if I use those words, but it's pretty accurate. Yeah. Immersion, there's only so much immersion that you can have. My immersion's just in my head. So
And John's point, I thought it was interesting because that was really something you made in the podcast. That was really your comment about psychologically trying to get to know those characters. And it's just not something that I think is totally feasible. Now, to be fair, I love the idea of getting immersed in the character as much as you can. But I think at some point you got to be realistic. I mean, I just can't think like a dark elf. I haven't lived that life and, in the Underdark and, been dominated by the clergy of Lolth and all that stuff. So it's really hard to even imagine how they would react, except probably pretty angry.
Right. These beings, elves, dwarves, dark elves, they're all from the imagination of people and can't really be that widely separated from people. Elves, I think their initial description when I first started reading fantasy was they were aloof.
Yes.
Or enigmatic. And, people are like that.
Yeah,
they are. People are aloof. They act strangely. You can't really guess their intentions unless they tell you, and then you can only trust that so far. So they're just, people are people. I consider them people. So they're not all that different. We all have the same kind of things, like we all desire, we have needs like food and shelter.
Yeah.
And then once those are met, a higher processing goes on, for pleasure and whatnot. So anyway, I really appreciated that message from Mr. John Allen Large at the Red Dice Diaries.
Absolutely. And I just want to make a comment, too, get a shout out to another guy who I think's taking a hiatus. He's another guy across the pond, Che Webster, does Roleplay Rescue, and he's a big fan of what he calls otherworld immersion. And he had a couple of guys on that talked about it. One guy from Bloomington, dude.
Bloomington, Indiana. Cool.
Yeah, that was my home away from home in college when I lived in Indiana back in the day. But anyway, I appreciate the efforts, and Che would probably lean toward that more. But that's a couple of really good podcasts, Roleplay Rescue and Red Dice Diaries, that are from guys across the pond. So I'm finding myself really liking some of the ones I hear over there.
Right. And we appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
Keep it up. All right. Yep. So for our what we've been up to since the last time as far as gaming goes, what do you have, Randy?
No second session. We got delayed, but we're going to play this weekend. So really nothing for me. Again, I'm thinking I'm going to do some more prep tonight. I want to do more vile things to you guys and make your life very miserable on Saturday.
Vile?
Oh, dude, it's going to be disgusting how much blood and gore there's going to be. It's not even going to be cool.
Well, it can't be too much. It can't be too
buckets.
Right. It can't be too much more gore than looking through the Lamentations of the Flame Princess.
No, I cannot challenge them there.
No.
And
right, and for me, I actually got to play.
What?
Last night.
Did, sucker?
Last night.
Oh, yeah, how did that go?
Our friend Philip ran a game for us, 5th edition.
Yeah.
And some observations that will actually come into play for our main topic quite a bit, I think.
Okay.
Mainly because my character, Butch, there's a slight bit of power disparity between him and the other characters. Tiny bit.
Between him and what level is he?
13th.
There's a power disparity between Butch and every other 13th level character in existence today on the planet. I would bet $10 on that.
Fair enough.
Hey, Butch, tell him what you have.
Well, no, this is not my fault. I was told you can select from. Well, also, Butch's character is a retread from Pathfinder, and has been played for at least 10 years, I'm thinking.
Yeah, he's been around.
And been collecting treasure and magic items since the start. And it's Pathfinder, so you know how magic items can be there. So he was redone in 5th edition, and the GM at the time said, pick X things. So I did, and I took him seriously because that's what you do. And I ended up with a Girdle of Storm Giant Strength and a Vorpal Sword and +3 Mithril Plate. So the rest of it's kind of minor in comparison. A few other items besides those.
Everything is minor in comparison to those.
Yeah. But
you're loaded down.
I was looking at, we could talk about the power disparity later on, but I was thinking about the numbers and stuff.
Sure.
And his damage per strike is 19 on average. Had he had a more reasonable strength score, like around 20, considering his level and stuff, it would only be about 6 points different.
Oh, okay, interesting. No,
that's not that much.
No, I played alongside Butch. I think he's a great fighter, but I don't think his. Well, we'll talk about Disparity later.
Yeah.
We're right. I'm getting off on that. So.
Right.
Sidetracked.
We'll connect it all up later. Segment 2, the gaming news.
Hold on. I want to clarify something.
Clarify.
I have 2 clarifications. I can put it in gaming news. So let's transition smoothly like we just did.
Smooth.
Gaming.
Smooth.
All right. I have two clarifications. Can I roll?
You roll.
Okay. So I was thinking about Free League, and this is just the analness, my anal retentiveness. I had made a comment how Free League must have taken their name from one of the factions in Planescape, and I thought it was the Revolutionary League or the Anarchist. Well, I was wrong. They're actually called the Free League in Planescape, and they're called the Indeps. So every faction has an official name and then kind of a nickname, right? So the Harmonium are known as the Hardheads, and the Free League is known as the Indeps, Independents. So I just want to clarify that, which is probably not important, only to anal retentive second edition dorks like me. So the second one, though, is probably a little more significant. I listened more and more about the Gale Force 9 kerfuffle with WOTC, and WOTC's translator had okayed the Korean version, but apparently it did have some issues, as well as the French translation. I think I had implied that there was no issues with the Korean version, but that's not. So
the Korean version had issues even after it was okayed?
I think so.
And then the French translation had issues of its own.
Yeah, and WOTC has more issues this week, so that's okay. And they seem to love to swim in the issue waters.
Right. Pinnacle, in other news, Pinnacle apparently has come out with is coming out with a Kickstarter called Savage Pathfinder.
Yeah.
And they are giving the savage treatment. They're savaging Rise of the Rune Lords.
That's cool. Now, did you check? I didn't check. Are they going to do just savaging Rise of the Rune Lords? They're not going to have a separate Savage Pathfinder, like a Pathfinder rule set, or not?
Well, I went ahead and just brought it up while you were talking.
I'm pretty pumped about this. Me and Patrick had talked a couple weeks ago about how it would be easy to savage one of those adventure paths, and pulling out the meat of the adventure, and it's just pretty uncanny how that all of a sudden that happened. I'm telling you, I think my house has been bugged for years. I mean, recall what Monty Cook stole from me, basically the Magister, but that's okay. I forgive Monty. He didn't. That's a complete lie.
He had something connected to both our brains, because I know.
Yeah, we talked about stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like these are thoughts that I've had, and he put them on paper first. Dang it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he bugged my head, so that's what it was, because he's a all-powerful god in gaming.
Right. So yes, it says here the Kickstarter begins mid-January and will feature the Savage Pathfinder core rules.
Oh, okay.
Which is a box set with all the usual Savage Worlds accessories, and the Rise of the Rune Lords boxed set with all 6 books of the adventure path and other deluxe accessories.
Wow.
Meaning,
what do you
lots
think?
of dough. Probably it's worth
right.
it, though. They do a good job over there at Pinnacle.
Dude, and Pathfinder has made, you talk about your issues with their adventure paths, but I remember when I had subscription and it went from like initially $19. I think I got my first 5 Rise of the Rune Lords free adventure paths. Not free, but I had a subscription to Dragon. And when Dragon went under, there was all this money that was still there, and they offered it to me. I was like, okay, I'll try your product out. And I bought a bunch of them, and I think they're pretty good, minus some of their issues. They're still pretty good adventure paths. A lot of meat on the bones. And so I'll probably get this. I mean, I just don't know how I'll pass it up. What do you feel about it?
If I had extra cash to buy it, I probably would. But I'll wait for it to come out. It's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be expensive.
Are you intrigued at least to try it?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. If I had the extra cash, I would snag that probably.
Yeah, but if I get it, you definitely would play.
Dude, if the game you bought was Poop on a Stick, I tried at least once.
Wow.
We're buddies.
I feel so flattered. We have been friends forever, so for at least many years.
Many years.
Okay.
40.
40
years.
Oh my, really?
Yeah, we've been friends longer than a lot of people have been alive.
Holy crap, we are old, and we still look this good. That's the amazing thing.
No one looks as good as we do at this age. Right, so that's coming out. The Kickstarter comes out in mid-January, so it's probably going to be a year past that before you actually get anything. That's the way they normally work. So,
okay.
So,
why don't we come back to 3, 4, and 5? We have these 3 connected issues here on.
Sure.
Because I'm going to go off on a little bit of a rant. I'm going to be kinder than my initial feelings were last week. I'd called Joe and said, dude, I am going to completely lose it on the podcast, but I'm not. I have no joke. I've prayed about it and I've calmed down, but I do find some of this stuff just ridiculous, and we'll get back to it. But why don't we hop on down to WOTC possibly being sold, which is not really. This is purely rumor and speculation. There was a site where ICV2 brought up the idea of since WOTC is breaking all these contracts with Gale Force 9 and Hickman and Weiss, and I read a couple of articles on it, and basically they said, well, when you do that, you're kind of clearing things off all your outside contracts, and Eric Tinker and Bad Mike over at Talking Crit talked about it a lot last night on their podcast, and they've definitely got their finger on the pulse of gaming news. They didn't think it was, there's just rumors and speculation, but it is interesting. And someone on the web the other day referring to that ICV2 article said, watch out if they were to break their contract with WizKids. Now, I do think that would be alarming.
Right. Another thing, having been through a few, at least one company that's changed hands, and heard about others, things that can surround a change of hands are either layoffs, especially with lower echelon employees,
right,
or folks at the upper echelons leaving, going to other companies. And WOTC isn't that big of a company.
WOTC's not.
You might,
WOTC's not, but Hasbro's massive.
Right, but I'm saying if Hasbro sells off WOTC, or is preparing to,
right,
WOTC's executives they might just switch to different internal positions, especially just the business people. And I don't really know how many people work for WOTC, but I don't think it's that many.
Well, I just finished listening to Talking Crit, like I said, with Tinker and Bad Mike, and it's interesting. They have some interesting perspectives. I think Eric was the one that said that WOTC has reached in and controlled more and more, or Hasbro has started reaching in to control WOTC more and more. And I think they said a while back ago they pulled the board games from WOTC, and Bad Mike was saying, Bad Mike is a guy from North Texas Con. I don't know much about him, but he seems like a pretty cool dude. Him and Eric both. He said they could be, they pull the board games away out of WOTC because Hasbro does board games and they're good at it, and then they might just sell off, say, eventually the IP of making the role-playing game, but keep movie rights and book rights and all the other thing, making toys and crap like that in-house. And Magic the Gathering, they're not going to give that up. No way.
Right. They could end up breaking WOTC up
into pieces. Yeah, and someone in the next few years, we don't know if any of this is going to happen. It's all speculation. But if they did that, it'd be interesting. D&D, would it still have the draw as just an RPG? I think maybe yes, but you wouldn't get all the big money that everybody's thinking about. I mean, people are talking millions and millions, but if you don't have the rights to,
movie rights.
Yeah, movie rights and toy
Books.
rights. Thank you very much.
What
On books and stuff. Books too. You could lose a lot of cash. I mean, it's possible.
Oh yeah.
You miss out on a lot of cash, I should say.
I mean, there probably would be some smaller players interested in it, or even the bigger ones, because rights like that, they change hands. Yeah. Even though Hasbro might keep them for a little while, they might decide, we're going to get rid of them later on down the road. Some of them.
True.
They don't have to. Each one of them is a separate entity in itself, most likely.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah, I don't want anybody really to lose their jobs because they got to eat too. I just don't like the direction that D&D is going, especially with the new book. It's not huge in there, but there's just an annoying element. Got that picture and that illustration in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. I mean, we were talking. It's two dudes.
Oh yeah.
I don't care if you're gay. Be gay.
No,
be don't gay. I don't care. But in gaming books, relationship illustrations are a rare thing, if anything.
Well, in D&D books.
In D&D books, I'm thinking of all the RPG books I've ever looked at. There's stuff like bar scenes, and you've just rescued the damsel, so the dude's got the damsel in their arms, and she's like half fainted. That kind of thing. Right. But it's very rare. It's usually poses of the iconic people of the game, depictions of the racial archetypes that they have at the beginning of the race book, and so illustrations of people generally don't have a relationship element to them. Very little, if any. I can't think of any.
Yeah, and that's one of
several. I could be wrong. It might be something that just blends in with the territory, and it's not evident to me. So when I saw that, I'm like, so they picked one relationship to depict.
Yep.
And they put it front and center, kind of like the Star Wars movie. And I'm like, guys, come on. The game is not about that. The game is about heroic action, not
Now you can do that
interludes.
You can do that crap. You can do that crap in your game if you want to. I don't care. I'm not interested in that. And I don't think D&D. I mean, like I told you when I saw that, it's like I really want to do a deep research and look at all my old books and see if there's anything in there that even remotely resembles that. I mean, you're talking about that picture that's kind of bluish that was posted on one of our CabinCon sites, and it was like boyfriends are here while their wizard buddies cast spells. I'm like, do you have? I just don't know why you feel the need to do that. It's not a thing.
It might be a raw nerve. It might just be that I have a raw nerve.
Fair enough. I think that's fair.
Might be.
Yeah. That's fair.
But
me too. I mean, I'm including myself in that.
Could very well be. Because otherwise, no big deal. I think that some of the other choices are poor in that book. But anyway.
Well, that's going to lead down some other roads, but the
direction of the industry is fairly left, and it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, it's when you're not fair, when you're mostly right, and even you don't get any kind of neutral anything.
I'd rather it be just neutral.
yeah.
But that might be my bias because I consider what is normal fantasy fair to be just non-political.
Well, that's Jeremy Crawford made the comment in one of those. Well, we're already here, so I'm just going to jump into this. Jeremy Crawford made the comment on one of those links that I have on there. I sent you that they're going to take several years for them to get in there and sort of fix what's wrong with D&D and have more representation and this and that. And I'm like, I just don't know why you have to do that. I mean, we talked about it before. I don't think about my Dragonborn's sexuality much at all.
No.
I mean, if he did, he would definitely be heterosexual. But I mean, that's just because that's who I am. I'm not going to do that. And if you're a gay woman and you want to make your character a lesbian, whatever. But in the game, if you're at my table, ain't much going to come out of that.
No.
I mean, it's just not going to do anything. I mean, you can't. You can imagine your own, situations, and you trying to woo some person. I'll let you woo some person, but we're not going to sit there and role play that stuff out. It's not going to be significant. It will not be.
No. Yeah, and Crawford also. Some of the things he said was that depictions in the game have hurt people.
Oh, please.
I would challenge him to actually provide some proof of that, because that's just ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Show me a picture.
As if D&D has caused harm to people.
Of course, we are white males. What's the term for cisgendered white males? So we don't see this, which makes it even worse. Yeah. And so I'm going down the rabbit hole. You ready, dude? I want to jump on this.
Go for it.
Okay. So this guy, Sean Taylor, from Nerds of Color, at least that was the claim, was his website, and I went there and saw more. I thought some foolishness there, in my opinion. Claimed that Tasha's Cauldron was tackling racism, but not enough has been done. More needs to be done. Yeah, I read this guy's article on the 20th of November on CBC Corporation. That is, CBC is a Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And it was an article he wrote for them on their website. It just mentioned he was part of Nerds of Color, which is a different site, which is fine. You can, you want to be a group for, people of color. I don't care. But he said I got several comments here, and it really made me angry because at first, because I was just like, I don't know what you're even thinking here, guy. I mean, it's inarguable. It's just crazy. But he says he quickly grew dismayed when his fellow young adventurers began exhibiting unconscious racism. It's like you're black. Hold on. I don't disagree. It's like you're black, so you have to play the duplicitous character, he said. Or you're black, so you have to play someone who comes from a villainous family. Or no, you can't be a wizard. You can be a warrior because you can be a big and brawny, but you couldn't be intelligent and sneaky, he recalled. So I guess that's all. So, I mean, maybe is he saying subconsciously they act like that? How did he even know? Why would he even think that? But here's the deal. Let's say it happened at his table. I find that unbelievable. It's anecdotal.
And unacceptable.
Well, sure. Right now, I mean, this guy has played D&D for 30 years, so he's not too far from our age category. Okay? So, likely no one ever said any of this. I just can't believe it. Now, that's my experience and my bias. At a bare minimum, I doubt the pervasiveness of that in the 80s. And he was in the 90s when he was playing. So, in the 80s, no one at our table or anyone I ever gamed with, and granted, this is anecdotal, statistically speaking, it's just my experience, but I'm just going to tell a little story, and Joe will be very familiar with this. Born and raised in southern Indiana, okay? And I'm going to go off a little tangent here, and I'm sorry if you're bored, folks, but just south of Indiana, there's a town called Martinsville. When I taught high school, 94, 95, I don't remember when it was, I was teaching at Bloomington North High School, and our basketball team was awesome sauce. In fact, they won the state title. And they got run out of a gym. Well, they didn't run out. They got booed and called names by this certain school near Martinsville. And they got called the N-word. And I had a couple of the students, black students in my class, and it was horrible. And our coach walked off the court, rightly so. Okay? So this is, in the 90s, and it happened. That's an experience where that happened, okay? And then... However, having said that, that was in 90-something. That's an experience. Now, Martinsville has a history of KKK issues, so there's probably some deep-seated stuff. But whatever. That's an anecdotal thing as well. I can't imagine a group of nerds, especially in the 80s, when we were at the edge of Satanism, D&D is Satanism, and he didn't even experience that. And so we're already kept apart from regular people. If you say you play D&D, you're a Dorcas. And we're going to go out of our way to be a complete a-hole to a black player because he's black? Dude, I would take anybody I could get.
Right.
I mean,
and welcome them and not even have any issues with them.
Absolutely not. And I'm from a small place in Indiana, south, close to Kentucky, and I'm just saying, there's racist people around there. There's racist people everywhere. You're not getting rid of racism, but it's not pervasive. It's crazy. Not even the 80s was it pervasive. I just don't believe that. And this guy, I don't know where he's from, but if he's published in Canada, maybe he's Canadian. I don't think so. But the point is, come on, man. Who are you kidding? In the 90s. Now, to be fair, it might have happened because that weird thing happened near Martinsville when I was in the 94, 95, but that got taken care of and was treated appropriately. That doesn't make it okay, but why didn't he stand up and walk out of that group immediately if that happened? That doesn't make any sense at all. Are you kidding me? That's just crazy. And then he goes on talk. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that would have been okay with that kind of crap. I wouldn't have been. No way.
I would have called my friend out who said it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing?
That's crap behavior.
Why are you treating John like that? Why are you taking Sam like that? That's uncool.
Yep.
And then he goes on and he kind of, in certain parts, he kind of mimics what they talk about with the elves and the orcs and all the stuff that's in Tasha's about, we can't have an evil race and the orcs can't all be dumb. And like, okay, but they've never been. I mean, they have never been. There's like 3 or 4 orcs in the Forgotten Realms. I can't remember the name. I know one is Oboe Many Arrows. I don't know much about these characters, and something about one shield or shield. These are this one guy, shield something, is a lawful good orc paladin. The other was a champion of orcs who made peace with dwarves. And I'm like, orcs have not always been evil in everywhere you turn. And then he made comments like this. I got to mention this when I'm rambling a little bit because I'm trying to
maintain composure.
Yeah. He said, in quotations or in brackets, I wanted to talk about Anansi and Ocean and Ogba and even code those things code them as other types of gods, Taylor said, even though those deities didn't exist in D&D when he first began playing. Oh, he wanted to have gods that I'm assuming they come from maybe African cultures or his own particular culture that he's fond of that has a lot of black people in it. I don't know. But have you ever heard of making your own deities? Oh, wait a second. Everybody did that.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So why don't you just make them? Because there wasn't an African deities and the deities and demigods, you're losing your mind? I mean, come on. That's crazy. There were things like Celtic. There were things like, Central American deities. I mean, come on. That's all kind. And I think there were Asian deities too, and deities and demigods. So it's like,
how many of the mythical gods that we know of are just made up crap anyway?
Well, in the end, him complaining that he didn't see those in the books, that means nothing.
No.
I mean, that means absolutely nothing. Make them yourself, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
People have.
Yeah, and this is where it really gets, and this is what really gets down to kind of stupid. The genre of fantasy itself is so steeped in European mythology and folklore, so steeped in a cultural default of whiteness.
Right.
It just carried over into the game. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons made in the early 70s by a bunch of white guys in Wisconsin who were influenced by Tolkien and Lovecraft was a blatant, who by the way was a blatant racist, which he might have been. I don't know. Tolkien, he's talking about Lovecraft.
He might be talking about Tolkien as well, because there are people that accuse him of that too.
Well, okay. Yeah, that's okay, sure. As a result, Taylor says racist tropes like those of dark-skinned brutish orcs, virtuous light-skinned elves, and conniving dark elves made their way into Dungeons and Dragons and other games or stories that drew from older fantasy texts. Okay, hold on.
Green-skinned orcs?
Oh, dark, dude. Right. Well, wait, and here's the deal. Dark elves had dark skin. I mean, a buddy of ours, Tony S. from Charlestown, represent Tone, sent me some stuff about, he knew a lot about Forgotten Realms, and he was talking about how the dark elves in the realms became dark. Coralon Larethian, who's an elven deity, used to date Loth back in the day. Okay, they were going out when she wasn't a demon queen. And, of course, she turned evil and all that stuff. And the ones that followed her, because they followed the dark goddess and demon queen, he turned their skin black to denote, look at how vile they are. right? And people say, oh, black. But I mean, it's the night. It's darkness. It's badness. It's not black skin. I'm a black person. No drow even looks black.
No.
I mean, not like a black person.
No, the original drow had white hair, didn't they?
Well, and their skin is like obsidian.
Obsidian black, yeah.
I've never seen a black person that looks like they're obsidian.
Right. And they didn't have the facial features. They had elven facial features. So they were simply elves with obsidian black skin and white hair, otherwise elf.
And his comment about the creators of D&D being racist because they use Tolkien and Lovecraft. Well, they also pulled from tons of other people, which are ancient, and they were making a game. They weren't looking up their biography and making sure, oh, did they ever say a bad thing about a black person, or did they ever were ever misogynistic? They were taking the fantasy that these guys wrote and they borrowed from it.
Right.
I mean,
right. So yeah, everything's bad that's by white people, so we can't use it.
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially the argument.
And with Drow, he even made the comment that he said, why aren't there different personality types? Hold on, dude. Okay. Have you heard of somebody called Drizzt?
Right.
And I don't know. Drizzt was chaotic good. How about Zaknafine, his father? He was like lawful neutral. His matron mother, Malice, and some of his sisters were evil, though his one sister, Verno, was a trainer of Drizzt and had sympathy toward him.
You weren't forced to be an evil drow.
And Breeza, who's the one that was there at his birth, saved his life because he was actually second born. And it's crazy. Oh, Jarlaxle, what about him?
Right.
Now, he might be neutral evil. He might be true neutral. I don't know. He doesn't even follow his own society's guidelines. He's a rebel.
He's a rebel.
And how about this? Because, there's no different personalities. I only named like 9 off the top of my head. And then Elistre, the drow goddess, chaotic good goddess of the moon.
Right.
How about that? With a bunch of drows that worship her.
Right.
So they're all good.
They're all good.
Okay, so at least in alignment, yeah. But when personalities are not different, I don't know. I've not read all the books, but what are you talking about, dude?
Right.
It makes no sense.
Right. This is broad sweeping generalities that mean nothing when you make them. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know the guy. He might be an okay guy, except for all this woke crap. But none of all the books, the earliest books, I think even now, they refer to these things as tendencies,
right?
Not restrictions. So any player can play whatever alignment attach them to practically any class or race combination. Almost. Paladins have to be good. Well, used to be. I don't think so anymore. But
no, they're just paladins.
Right. And I remember the words racial tendencies or word tendencies being used. Yeah. Not this is the only thing you can do.
Well, and though Drizzt busted open the floodgates in terms of a general sense, I mean, D&D in 74, there were people playing evil wizards and Balrogs. I told you about that. So, I mean, people were playing unconventional races from the beginning.
Right.
No one stopped them. So it's not like, oh, well, he's evil, you can't play him. Or every single drow that's ever been born is evil. You can't break the mold. Are you kidding me? I mean, I'm sure there was someone that figured out to play a good drow before Drizzt was written. Right. I bet that happened in a campaign.
And probably 99% of the bad guys that were written by these game designers were depicted as white dudes.
I would not be shocked. Right. And then lastly, this is something else too, just in regards to the wokeness and a little bit for WOTC too, and I'm sure they're listening. If they did, they would hate us, but that's fine. When it comes to claim that D&D is so sexist, misogynist and all this stuff, do realize the drow are completely matriarchal.
Yeah.
Early editions of D&D, the females were literally stronger than the males, physically stronger. Mm-hmm. Okay? Female drow clerics in first edition Unearthed Arcana at 4th level got Dispel Magic for free. They got magic resistance of 50% plus 2% per level. In 1E, that was awesome. I mean, awesome. In 2E, it was still pretty good. In 3rd edition, 11 plus level in spell resistance, which is great at 2nd or 3rd level.
It's awesome.
And really good. And then in 3.5, I just looked it up before we started, +2, Dex, Intelligence, and Charisma. But they did have a little bit of a beef on -2 con, but I think all elves had -2 con.
All elves.
So I just, God bless the guy, but it'd be nice if people would be, you know what, it could just be his experience was bad. Some of that might be true. I mean, it might all be true of what he said. He might have had a really crappy group that treated him like dog poop. But I just don't. I don't know how you can believe that's what it's inherently in the system. It's not. Not in D&D. That's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway,
I can't get into the head of folks who think that the logical conclusion you get all of this is that white people are inherently bad. So if you're saying you can't say black people or tropes that you're assigning to black people, aka orcs, can't be inherently bad, but all these things that these woke folks are saying essentially boil down to white folk are inherently bad. They don't. That doesn't jibe together at all.
It doesn't, and that's getting down a different path. But you're right. The unconscious racism is a pile of dog crap. So
right.
Anyway.
All right. Happier things.
Yes.
Happier things. Oh well. Let's see.
Well, probably sadder things. First.
Sadder, really.
Yeah.
David. Darth Vader has truly fallen.
Oh, yes.
David Prowse has died.
Yep.
I thought that happened earlier this year. This was just recent?
I thought it was. Maybe I'm behind the curveball. Maybe I didn't get the exact date, but I think it was recently. Yeah. Let me do a quick checksy.
November 28th.
Yep. There you go. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean he was not a spring chicken at that point during the filming of Star Wars. He was not that young at that point, so he was pretty old by the time this year ran around.
True. So then, lastly, it was some holiday gifts for for your GM. Did you get a chance to look, see what you're going to buy me?
What? I looked at that. There's some interesting things on it. I've never really been a fan of a lot of this extra gobbledygook, but I like the maps, the Battle Grid game mats. Those are nice. Though, if you go down to the comments on this thread, it's at least at the time they made the posting, those battle mats were out of stock. I haven't checked to make sure if they still are, but
right.
The dice counters look interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too.
And the monster stands for standees instead of figures, those are okay. I tell you what, the metal dice are pretty cool. Though the D4 is a caltrop. I don't care what anybody says. You step on that thing, you're getting stitches.
Yeah,
guaranteed.
You are. Yeah. Whether you're a snitch or not.
Correct.
You know what? You know snitches always get them.
They get stitches. They have a dice box in the form of a mimic, which is pretty cool, but I don't think it holds that many dice.
That's one of the problems I found with a lot. You said that a while back, that there's a lot there's a beholder dice bag and a mimic dice bag. You're talking about the box, though. The box I really liked, but you're right, it doesn't hold much at all.
I mean,
just look cool on your shelf.
Right. The way they have it pictured here, and I think if they had it at a different angle, it would show how few dice it could actually hold. It's not supposed to be a dice box that you take with you. It's supposed to be a storage box, but you don't have that much room in it, looks like to me. I mean, it looks nice. It's well made, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It does look really cool, but I'm with you. It's just really hard to even Yeah, it'd be tough to plunk down the cash for that. So
Right.
yeah. All right, I think we hit everything, didn't we?
We did. So, you want to take the power disparity?
Yeah. So I want to talk about today as the main segment is this idea of power disparity between PCs. How to handle it at the table. The definition is real easy. I just wanted to look it up and make sure it was as simple as I thought it was. A great difference is what disparity means. So mostly focusing on Dungeons and Dragons, but we can get to other things as well if it comes up. I'm not opposed to talking about other systems that we know. So I have as the first idea is this idea of two different types of disparity: combat and then narrative. Now, you might even call social skills being a disparity too. We could add that in there, but combat disparity. My first question is pretty open-ended. Does it matter?
In the grand scheme of things, no. I will just say no. But
Okay.
it might matter at your table.
Okay.
It might matter
Yeah.
cosmically.
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant. But it might matter at your table depending on what kind of relationships you have with the folks you're playing with. If they're good friends, they probably won't care if your character's a little more powerful than them, but you never know.
What if
It
it's a
can
lot
cause hurt feelings. I've seen it in the past.
Yes, me too. What if it's a lot more powerful? What if, like, I don't know, 5e, you're playing a little wizard dude and Butch shows up, same level?
I can imagine them being, having some insecurities.
Yep. How did he get a Vorpal? What kind of crap is that? That's what they'd say.
I don't know. I paid my dues.
Yeah,
I don't know about
baby.
you. What level are you? I'm second level. Well, suck it up.
Second level is one thing, but if they're same level as you,
Same level. Yeah. Well,
of course they go, I just pre-gen this dude, and you're like, well, I've been playing this guy for 10 years, so suck it.
yeah. There is something for that. I remember when I was in D.C., I had a friend, Mark. They had a lot of folks who had long-standing characters who had lots of stuff, high level, and then he wanted to try to get me in, and I've got the character I would bring in would be just puny compared to them, and in addition to that, they were dark. So in the figurative sense,
Okay.
they were all evil. So you remember what's that game where evil won?
Midnight setting.
So imagine Midnight, and the PCs are running the show.
Oh man!
Right.
Here you can come in and be their Nodwick.
Right. Essentially,
Nodwick's a comic book about a henchman, so Joe would be their henchman. Were you allowed to make the same level character?
even the character they were giving me was a little bit lower level than the others. And the one guy was running a what do they call them? From Athos, the dragon, a dragon king.
Oh, dragon.
So he was a dragon, a wizard, psionic dragon.
Oh,
from Athos.
Oh my gosh!
Almost maximum level. So in second edition, you probably couldn't play anything that's on the books that you could play more powerful than that I can think of.
That was pretty unreal. I think there was a Dragon King in Athos that was a 20th level magic user and 20th level psionicist.
Right.
And a dragon.
Yeah.
Was that him? Was this guy too? The same way?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, Louise. Yeah, so that must have been frustrating. So it definitely mattered to you, right? Did you just feel like a butt lick the whole time?
Well, the good thing was he was the guy who so they passed around the DM's hat, and when they played in the time I was playing, Mark's character, who was this Dragon King, wasn't playing. He was the DM, so I didn't have to worry about that so much. But the rest of them, they were really ridiculous. And you might have thought that my character that I just spoke about at the beginning, a mere 13th level fighter with a couple of very powerful magic items, was ridiculous.
Yep. No, he was nothing.
Right. Compared to this Dragon King would breathe once and kill him. And,
yeah, I mean, Butch would definitely be carrying that dude's coattails.
Oh, yeah. And
so
they had a troll.
Wow.
Well, he wasn't a troll originally, and then through something he acquired the body of a troll while maintaining. He's a cleric, I think, of some kind, at least, maybe more.
Boy.
So
yeah, so there was serious. Now, were the characters minus you? Were they pretty well balanced with each other?
There was a bit of. I mean, you can't really. I don't think there was anybody really close to the Dragon King. But this is still second edition. He still had hit points like a wizard would have.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that the dragon stuff gave him a lot of hit points.
Oh,
so
okay.
You had the old school Cavaliers, who were pretty tough.
True.
You could do lots of damage.
Unearthed Arcana Cavaliers.
Yeah.
Times 3 Lancers. Yeah, they were awesome.
Yeah. So, and in the it's something that I've said before. When you PCs direct their powers at each other, all things kind of the power disparities kind of are really lit up.
For sure, but even if they don't,
right?
I think there's still issues, though, right?
There can be issues.
I mean, it's pretty tough. I mean, if you're like, well, I guess it comes down to a couple of things, depending on what version of D&D in particular you're playing. If we talked about a little bit before, if it's a build game and you just built your character crappy, like you had, GURPS, and you had each of you had 500 points, you just built a crappy 500-point character. I don't know what to tell you, but if you've done all these adventures together, and you guys both made, level 1, you were pretty equal. And then all of a sudden, Joe's character has grown out of proportion. And it could be from gear. It could be from advantages he's got story-wise, which leads to a narrative thing. That's a different thing. But combat-wise, it'd be gear or build. I'm not sure what else. Or just class, right? You're a fighter and I'm a ranger, and in this version of D&D, let's say rangers suck.
Because that can happen.
Good.
It has happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and through no fault of the guy who's building him, because we look at it at first level and go, oh, ranger looks good, take him. Yeah, I'm an animal companion, sounds good. And then when you get to 8th or 9th level, you're like, dude, this is a piece of crap.
Yeah, my animal companion always gets killed in the first round. One hit, bam, no more animal companion. Yeah.
So it can matter. I think even if you have friends, it can still matter.
It can.
I mean, but I don't think friends will get all that upset. I think ideally you would bring it up and say, hey, Joe's just kind of dominant. I'm not keep picking on Butch, and Butch is fun I love him when you play Butch. He's a really cool character, but he's just like dominating everything, and we don't ever get a chance to do anything. I mean, he just gets up on the dragon and kills it in 3 swings, and we don't, get a chance to even cast a spell. I mean, let's think about. I mean, I'm going to come to this later. We got to think about how do you handle that, but that can be a problem even from fair-minded friends, right?
Right.
What about narrative disparity? Now, maybe should I clarify what I mean by that?
Yeah, probably a good idea.
Okay, so I'm talking about characters who seem to be able. So this could be under the category, maybe the same umbrella with social. It could be a social skill character, a bard who just walks in and I think you should give us a free room, and you roll a 47 on diplomacy because you're 5th level and you got plus 42, and you roll a 3 or you roll a 5, and then Bart always gets everything he wants, even if it helps the party. He's always talky guy, and he's able to go in there and persuade everybody. I think you ought to give me the keys to the kingdom. You're only a 2nd level Bard. That's okay. I rolled 37, so you're going to. That's more of a 3rd edition approach. If you let that happen, I wouldn't, but that's fine. And then there's also the possibility of just a person who is able to affect the narrative. And people will use this as a knock on the wizard sometimes. When you get to high level, you can hey, we got to break through this wall. No, we don't. Pass wall. Let's roll. And so he's constantly bypassing and just flexing. Look, I'm changing the story. We got to go to this massive dungeon. No, we don't. Scry, teleport.
Right.
So that's connected to abilities, but it's changing the narrative of the story. Or And so I'm giving you all these into one big, there's different versions, right? So also within this, it could just be a matter of a player. And this may not, I'm not sure what we'd end. What if a player is like, he jumps in feet first every time. He's always talking to the NPCs. He's quote unquote making deals. He's making friends, and he influences how the group goes because he's a very charismatic person. And his character may be too, or may not be. And so that's more of a player, not a character so much. Maybe I ought to back off that one. So I'm thinking
I don't think you can fault anybody for that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And, that's if a wallflower's sitting and watching, oh, well, you're out of luck.
Right.
But the first two examples could be the idea of that wizard who uses his magic, or a character class that uses its abilities to just affect the story constantly, whereas the fighter can just hit things. And I'm not sure I fully believe this all the time, but at least I can say mechanically, as D&D, any version of D&D goes, at higher levels, the wizards dominate. You can say what you want, but the magic users just have more effect.
Yes, yeah. They vary. Most of the time, that's the way it is.
Yeah, versus the talkie-talkie bard or the highly influential cleric who always gets the church to help you out and has got a free raise dead anytime you turn around. So that sort of disparity, maybe the party doesn't care if it's benefiting them. Maybe that's not an issue if it's benefiting them, but it's an issue maybe with the game or not. What do you think? Does that matter?
It really, whether it matters or not, depends on attitudes of the players. If you look at literature and other media, especially movies and TV, in a particular story, different people will have different effects on the narrative, apparent effects, based on whatever the author or producer writers have given them. And you see a variety of power levels within, it's not necessarily groups, because usually you don't have that, but let's just say the Fellowship of the Ring. You had Gandalf at the very beginning. You had Gandalf, Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas, all powerful individuals.
Yes.
Oh, and can't believe I forgot his name. Boromir. Yep. Powerful individuals. And then the hobbits. They weren't powerful. They were not much more than commoners. And they all adventured together. And Gandalf was head and shoulders more, if you go with the canon in Tolkien's canon, Gandalf was kind of an angelic creature who was voluntarily holding his power back because of different reasons.
Sure.
And Aragorn, you can't really say that his character developed through the story. Aragorn was Aragorn throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, he was. And
he became a king, but he didn't gain a level. But that's just because that's a story. It's different from gaming. But when you look at it, those guys were all various power levels, but they still told a compelling story.
There was narrative disparity too.
And there was very much so.
Gandalf and Aragorn and Boromir all had a lot of narrative control within their realm. If they were characters, Boromir could be like, "The White City is not doing anything. I'm out of here.
Yeah,
give us the ring, or we're gone."
And at least at the very beginning, Gandalf was telling people what to do. And so was Aragorn. Okay, let's go. We're going. You don't want to go, but we're going. And that changed over time. And but I think you could, at a game table, if you wanted to, be okay with not necessarily being as powerful as another character at the table in that same kind of vein. My character is the thief, and I'm not Gandalf. So my area of concern is here. And as long as I'm happy with the results of my actions, then it may not be a big deal. But I understand why people are kind of wanting all the characters to be as precisely equivalent in power as possible. But when you throw magic items into the equation, it can be hard to manage.
Yeah.
because you don't. It's not like after every session or whenever treasure is doled out, it's not necessarily possible for everybody to get equivalent powered things every time.
Yes, so there'll be disparity maybe for a moment, and I mean the good question is perfect balance. Do we even want that? I'm not really sure about that.
I'm not sure because these kinds of disparities might be different at lower levels, mid levels, and high levels. At low level, the wizard might be hiding behind the fighter's shirt coats, the shirt tails the whole time until they get to third, fourth, fifth level, whatever it is. And then, over the course of many levels, disparities will come and go. And then let's put my character, Butch, out there again. It would be difficult, I think, for a DM to be able to bring the other characters in over time to the same power level as Butch, unless we hamstrung Butch a little bit.
Or unless we said, look, Joe, Butch is loaded. I'm not putting much stuff in there for him.
Well, that's what I told Philip last night. I said, I don't want any treasure. The only thing I want is a little bead on Beauregard, because that's what ended up being the focus of the adventure last night. Or that was not really the focus. It was Beauregard was an element. So one his kind of arch nemesis. So this level disparity, which we're bringing in, is, well, even before I do, I think the question is, so I think in our group, I think narrative disparity has never been much of an issue. I've never had anyone complain that I can think of. Maybe one complaint was, this person's always the leader. Why can't I be the leader? Back when we used to think about things like that. But that was kind of a childish thing, and we got over that. Sure.
I don't think we've had anybody talk about narrative disparity and really care about it. So for us, I think combat disparity is mainly the only thing we probably should ever even minorly consider.
Right. So the disparity, I think, would be worse. Let's say if during a session, the other PCs, apart from the person that's out of line with them, had a really hard time, barely made it through. Maybe one of them died. And then the other guy, it was a breeze.
Yeah. Butch took two points of damage, even though he's a frontline fighter. Everybody else was down into making death saves like in 3 battles. Right.
So if the disparity was a little closer, let's say everybody lived, no one was in any real danger of dying. They didn't lose that many hit points. But one character just kind of shined. That could be a problem, but it may not be. It depends on the group, and it depends on the DM. If the DM really would want everybody to be more similar, then that's an issue.
I think in level-based games, though, give me a sec here, let me think.
You could even advance, let's say in the case of Butch. Maybe he doesn't advance for a while. He stays where he is for a while. Everybody else could be 15th, 16th level, and he's still 13th. Something like that.
That wouldn't necessarily be too bad.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so before we kind of leave this this sort of subtopic of level disparity, okay, so we talked about a little bit. So with level disparity and magic items and challenges, that's kind of part of the next question, so we can kind of go past that a little bit. But with the level disparity, do you think in a game like D&D, has any version of the game, well, I think we talked about the first and second used to suggest in their modules, 8 to 10 characters of level 9 to 12.
Yeah.
But that also had to do, but it had to do with, we talked about it, that had to do with the different experience point charts. I know that when I ran adventures at Gen Con in the 2nd edition era, if I wanted to run a 9th to 12th level adventure, I'd make the rogues 12th level, and the wizards would probably be 9th or 10th at most, and the fighters would be 10th or 11th. Clerics would be probably 10th, and it worked out well. They were pretty balanced. I think it depends on the game, you can have a level disparity. I think we thought in 3rd edition, 3.x and Pathfinder, you get more than 1 or 2 levels apart, it became tough on the DM, right?
Yeah. A CR is kind of a weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole thing about level earlier editions, I think the XP chart handled level disparity, handled power disparity by itself. You could almost say that it did that, because wizards, while at low levels they weren't that powerful, they were held back because later on they would be, and everybody else would be several levels ahead of them and able to withstand a challenge that could challenge the wizard and them.
Right.
And you could probably do that. What we have now is games where they fashion the character classes similarly, in the D&D paradigm. They fashion classes similarly to the D&D paradigm, but then they have the same XP chart. So they're all precisely the same level in a group when the group advances.
Yeah, and
so the expectation is everybody's the same level, everybody advances the same rate, and dings at the same time.
And that may not be the best way.
May not be.
So we're saying the old school guys might have had it right.
Right. And, you know, having the advantage of playing with several different styles, it might be the better way to handle it.
Right.
Is to have a different XP chart for character classes. I mean, there's no way the way to make a wizard on par with a fighter is for them to not have spells, or very many. You have 1 or 2,
or make your spells weak.
Yeah. So you really can't. I don't care. I don't really care what you think you can do. If like last night, my wife Jennifer, her bard has a harp that has a 7th level spell in it.
Whoa!
Firestorm.
Right.
And it affects 10 by 10 cubes.
Whoa!
And the range is 150 feet.
Holy crap! That's awesome.
Right, and the damage is 7d10.
Oh man!
Something like that.
Yeah.
So she did 35 or 38 points of damage to everything that we were getting ready to face.
How you like that, minions?
Right. That was after one of the other characters hit a few with an ice storm or something like that, and did some damage. So before physical engagement, 5 of the 10 were already dropped.
Yeah.
So my character, Butch, can only drop 1 at a time. So I don't know. Is it really that big of a disparity?
Yeah, no, maybe not. Maybe not. Now, a 7th level spell coming from is she 13th level too?
She's 12th, but it's from her magic item.
Okay, still that's
from
pretty.
A harp. Yeah,
and that's not way out of power rank for a 12th level character.
No, I mean the harp itself is a legendary harp, so it's considering 12th level. I mean, considering 5th edition, you don't really start getting serious magic items until your 13th or 14th level anyway. Getting a legendary at 12th is probably out of line, so maybe she shouldn't have had it. But
what the item does, a 12th level wizard can cast 6th level spells.
Right.
So she can cast a 7th level spell. That's not too far out of whack.
No, not really. But it devastated the encounter, that's for sure.
Yeah. And speaking of CR, do you think CR can help at all? I kind of think not. I don't think
really,
because CR is already an art more than a science.
Right. Because CR is a number that's trying to express how well that one creature can stand up to a party. And I don't think it does a good job.
Well, I think especially with parties are so different. You can say one particular power is pretty boss. You're like, well, if you got a group of spellcasting guys that are not high in hit points and low cons, than a power that a character's like something that petrifies you, makes you make a con save. That's a lot more dangerous. But if you got a bunch of fighters and barbarians, they'll make con saves all day.
But what if we were all 12th level wizards?
Yeah.
And we in 5th edition, we're all 12th level wizards, and we all had charisma save spells.
Oh, geez.
And invisibility. So we could have all been invisible, walked into the midst of all of these orcs, essentially.
Yep.
And
own them
easily.
Yep.
Now, the next step was Oni and witches. So that might not necessarily have been it might not necessarily have been a bad one. Charisma saves are bad for everybody. I don't even think wizards are that good at it.
No, unless
necessarily.
Maybe do paladins use? Sorcerers use charisma a lot.
Right, sorcerers. So
they're a bunch of sorcerers, maybe, but I don't know. Maybe
depends on how the witches work, which I don't know.
Yeah.
But charisma saves. That's the way 5th edition works. I don't in Butch. Okay, intelligence saves, charisma saves, +0. Wisdom save, +2.
Wow, at 13.
You failed. I think I had to make 3 or 4. I only made 1 will save. Wisdom save last night.
Right.
So
here's a good question. So I want to step away from D&D just for a second. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. What about skill systems? Things like GURPS, Savage Worlds, where you get points. I've been reading a lot about the new Hackmaster. I don't know if that matters or it feels more like D&D or Ars Magica. You've had some experience with that. Do you think in skill systems? I'm not sure if skill systems matter. Is disparity okay? Or in certain games, like in Ars Magica, it's supposed to be troop style play, but you guys didn't do that when you played. You each played a wizard. Did disparity matter there?
Well, the way the game is supposed to be played in Ars Magica, disparity is the name of the game. Because in Ars Magica, one person plays the mage, the magus, or whatever.
Yep.
And he's much more powerful than the others.
Right.
He has a troop of people, followers, they're all his followers. Or you could even say that he has, let's say, a keep. And there are maybe half a dozen or less wizards there, and they all have camp followers type people. They have a blacksmith and shoemaker, have a few bodyguards, cook, things like that, all these people.
Right.
And when you play Ars Magica, you have one person in the group play the wizard, and then the other people play the support characters. So that is very much designed to be a disparity game. And we never played it that way.
I know you played as Wizards Adventuring.
Yeah, all 3 wizards. And that was interesting. I don't know. I only played it a few times, so I don't know I don't know how well the troop played because I never played it.
Yeah, and as I think about it, but besides Ars Magica, systems like GURPS and Savage Worlds, I guess you could have power disparity, but I think in my experience with Savage Worlds, you don't. If you're trying at all, you won't make a horrible character.
Right. When I don't know with GURPS, because GURPS has a lot to it. Savage Worlds has a very much smaller rule set.
Right.
So there's not a whole lot of different things you can choose, and characters of a type are going to be somewhat samey. And you really, I don't know. I don't think you can, even if you're a novice and you're playing with, say, heroic or higher.
Yeah.
There's going to be some noticeable differences.
Yes.
But that can be quickly through play as long as you don't die.
Dude, just get yourself a sweet weapon.
Right.
If you're playing a fantasy, if you're playing a science fiction setting, get a high-powered, rail gun.
Right.
It's the size of a pistol.
Right.
And you're like, whoa, this dude can hang.
It doesn't have level requirements in it, so you just shoot and poof, you're going to poof people in that game.
I'm going to skip the next question, but I want to move to the next one. I think it fits here pretty well. We're talking about skill systems and D&D and other systems. Is power disparity, when it does exist, do you think it's the fault of game design.
It could be.
I think it could be too. I think we've kind of implied. I feel like that might be a big issue with third edition. There's a power disparity, I think, built right into the game.
Purposely or accidental, or is it just a carryover from earlier versions, maybe accentuated?
I'm feeling like it's what you said. I think, and I never believed this argument before, and I'd heard it. The experience point chart, leveling at the same time, is required in third edition.
Yeah.
And then there's still the issue of the wizard. You can't actually have, if you had a 9th level wizard and a 12th level rogue, I mean, I guess you could play that it'd be interesting to see if you could do that in third edition. Just keep the rules as are and make it more difficult to level up as casters.
Sure.
That might work. So, and I think power disparity should be discussed at session 0 too. I think that's just so everybody knows that, especially if you're in Ars Magica, look, when you play one of the grunts, when Joe's wizard's doing his thing, you don't be acting like you're going to be the man, because you're not.
Well, the bodyguards do have a distinct advantage over the wizardy types in that if they were to direct their attacks at the wizard would probably go down, because they don't have a lot of, as far as I remember, they don't have a lot of physical defenses. It's possible that they could stop one if they didn't get the drop on them. So,
but I would imagine in most scenes, I'm saying the wizard's going to look like the total BA.
Oh yeah.
Do you think
he's going to be the leader? He's going to be telling everybody what to do. So you have to be okay with that.
Yeah, I feel like in a session 0, you should, as a DM, if you know those things in the game, you should mention them. And I think if players have noticed things about certain characters, you say, "Hey, dude," like we joked, how you told me, I didn't joke, I was talking how, when Joe would bring in his character would level up, he often warned me. He'd say, "Randy, I want to let you know the spell my wizard got this level, because I can do this." And I'd be like, "Whoa!" But he would warn me just so I know, okay, Joe has this capability. And even if it was pretty buff, I'm like, well, I need to let him shine with that and kick some butt, but I also need to realize that I may have to counter that one day if he's facing a foe of equal or higher level that really knows about that. Not that I try to do that every time, but, I need to let your cool power work, but there may be a point where I can't let you just dominate every encounter because you happen to pick energy shield or something.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's part of the GM has to be responsible for that too. You got to look at the characters and try to design situations where each character can shine sometimes. And that was kind of hard in second edition when you got past 9th or 10th level, because clerics and wizards could replace the rogue. They could replace the thief.
In a lot of situations, yeah. Because
Find remove traps was a spell, wasn't it? Find traps and
knock. You could, by that level, you could cast it so many times, or you could just bypass doors.
Yeah.
Stuff like just go around things, teleporting.
Yeah, I could just see the fighter look back at the thief and go, "Why are we keeping you around?"
I think that's one of the reasons why they switched the role of the thief from the door opener trap remover to the striker type.
Yeah, unless
they always had the sneak attack, but it was hard to get in early editions.
Back attack, baby.
Back attack.
Yeah, I remember that.
Dagger. Back attack.
So I think I've answered my question. I don't think that disparity of power level. Another question on here I had on here, folks, was: is it just the players' problems? No, it's not. Do you think you need to? Is there any impetus to try to cultivate a group with the same proclivities for min-maxing? Meaning, we talked a lot with one of the reasons we left third edition and not played it very much was because people could get 5 random people and say each of you bring a 10th level character with max gold, build it however you want. Boy, you would get 5 sometimes very disparate characters, and 2 or 3 are awesome and 2 are like suck.
And that might even be a problem with, say, bring a 10th level character that you're just making up out on the fly instead of you can cheese it. And
it wasn't leveled up organically. Joe loves that phrase.
Organic.
organically leveled up.
It's only a marketing term. Right. So the problem with making a 10th level character as opposed to having a group that has started at first level and grown together, a power disparity, if there is one, is going to be much less an issue, because if there is one, you've been playing and you've either solved that issue through play, or everybody's resolved to be okay with that.
Right. I think that's the other thing.
Right. That's kind of one reason why I think with Butch, he's been playing for 10 years. It'd be one thing if somebody rolled in with a character who they just made up and never played and has all this stuff, and then people whine about how powerful they are. You're like, well, of course, that's because of X, Y, and Z. But when you have a character that's been played for 10 years as opposed to first, you're just now making a character, it's two different things.
Yeah, and nobody...
And trying to emulate a character like Butch in a different game, there's going to be problems. So maybe he needs to be adjusted. I'm not going to seriously suggest that, because I like him the way he is. But
I don't think so.
I think the thing is that you need to do is like the experience point table. He's on a wizard experience point table now.
You could. Ooh, there's an idea. Ooh, that's not a bad idea. And I'm not for Butch. I'm just thinking that's a role-playing game interesting scenario if you switch tables based upon your level.
You might even just
in class
have, what if somebody wants to play the simple character?
Mm-hmm.
They have the simple character experience point table, which means they might not be that powerful, but they can advance faster.
Right. Do we have any games now? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead.
I don't have much else. I was just going to kind of summarize. Are we playing any games, or do we have any games that we like to play in a rotation that you think, from a design standpoint, suffer from any kind of disparity? I mean, so I'm talking Savage Worlds 13th Age 5e. That's all we're really playing, right?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
The only power disparity, see, and I don't have a whole lot of experience with 5e, so I don't know if there is any in it. With the spellcasters, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? We haven't studied that well enough to be sure. That's true. Any other thoughts on power disparity for PCs and how it affects the game?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Okay.
We have beat that horse dead.
We did, but we're going to come back to it in the very next segment.
All right. Beat it down dead in the dirt, and now we're going to stomp a mud hole and stomp it dry.
It's resurrecting. So, Cabin Con moment. Now, we had some power disparity at Cabin Con. During arenas. In arenas, you were given a point build, gold piece value limit, and build your 6th level character using any official, at that time it was Pathfinder or 3.5 book. We played competitively initially. So I think that was a personal issue with some players, but that's not really a concern of the GM or other players.
No,
I should say early on it was the referee, because we truly were referees initially.
Right.
And so that's not a problem. Now we did transition to more story and adventure base. And
move closer to your mic, dude.
We did transition from,
no problem,
to more story and adventure based. And when the campaign got called Elysium proper, I have listed several things that I thought we did have some problems with power disparity, and how we managed it. I think for when you're doing more story adventures, I heard some players sharing strategies, some of our better character builders sharing strategies with other players. A few players didn't really care to hear about it. They got turned off by the arena, so they didn't really care. Or some players like, I don't want help. I want to do my own thing, which is fair. But if we're running a story adventure and not fighting each other, we ran into some issues with GMs not carefully divvying out treasure. And some players like me, I focused on RP, not on gear, But I also am not a player that cares if Joe's, character Butch can kick the crap out of Penty, my little sorcerer halfling. I didn't give two craps about that.
Right.
And we allowed redistribution of magic items and gear basically at a 1-to-1 cost, right? So if you had a 5,000 gold piece sword, you could trade it in, and next week it could be a 5,000 gold piece wand.
Right.
And rebuild rules at the end. Do you think those strategies, well, I don't think those strategies solved the problems we had, but they might have caused the problems. What do you think?
Well, it could be because gold piece assignment to magic items isn't always a good handle on its power. You could have a real expensive magic item and sell it and get a better magic item of the same price. That could happen.
Yes, especially when a new book came out.
This new book came out. I remember those shirts. They give you an extra action. Essentially a haste shirt.
I hated those.
And the way they made it, and then there were strategies involved with those. You could wear several at one time and just activate different ones.
No way. Could you?
Oh, sure.
Oh,
wow.
Geez.
If you wanted to read the rules that way, there was nothing really saying you couldn't.
Because they didn't take a slot.
Right.
Oh, so
you
wrong.
might not even, I guess you had to wear it, but, it did take a slot. I think it took your chest slot, perhaps.
Well, then how could you have more than one?
Oh, I guess that's true. I remember a strategy people bringing up that you could have several on and then you just activate different ones as you use them because they were one-use items.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah, you could have them in your backpack and switch them out every time.
But yeah, there's weird things like that. The magic item problem was probably one of the worst problems.
Yes.
Especially when you had the loose cannon giving out crazy items.
Yeah, especially at very low level characters getting stupid gear. I mean, we had one guy, our boy Jeff. He had a long standing arena character who's a samurai, 10th level, total BA, but he had very few magic items, and he had another character who played. And his first time out at 6th level got a weapon that was worth more than everything his 10th level character had. It was like, oh, but that's a problem with shared worlds too. We should have probably had a tighter rein on those things, but that's a lot of work.
Yeah. Lessons learned.
Yeah. Lesson learned. So, on to the next segment, building a better gaming world. I had to highlight this, paying attention to power disparity. Should we do that? I feel like we probably should a little bit.
Just a little bit. It's more of a thing that you keep your eye open for rather than trying to design in. If you try too much to design in evenness, you're going to make a bland game.
Yeah,
that's what I think about 5th edition is kind of bland. And 13th Age is good, but it has a blandness issue with the rules, not so much with the setting. The flavor elements are pretty cool. That's what saves it to me.
Yeah, you can get too balanced mechanically. Yeah. I have no issue. A lot of people complain about the God Wizard and old 3rd edition D&D are everywhere. They say there's never been solved. And I'm like, you know what? In my setting in the game, when we ever get this done, I don't have an issue with wizards becoming the most powerful in the end. Or a cleric. I mean, magic probably rules. I just can't picture a fighter. You play a fighter, even Butch. He just keeps rolling to 20th level. I just feel like a 20th level wizard, a player with the same purpose, the same experiences as Butch, given the same kind of gear, meaning for his appropriate class, wouldn't outshine Butch. And I'd be okay with that, even if I was playing Butch.
Right.
I mean, right. Magic rules, dude. In the end, in our world, I think magic is going to be scary, dude.
Can you think of a 5th edition spell, low level, charisma or intelligence save? Probably charisma. I don't know if there's too many intelligence saves.
Right.
That would just be like, you cast that and you're done. You fail your save, you're done.
I can't off the top of my head. It's been too long. Haven't looked at them.
I mean, it's not like, let's say that second level wizard has like a charm person, or charm spell, or an illusion spell. It's charisma save. Casts it on Butch. At the very least, they're going to be able to cast that and run off.
I'm trying to remember. There was a 4th level spell that I can't for the life of me think of. I told you the other day we were talking, and it's really great. I want to say it's Baleful Polymorph. I think it's a charisma save. That sounds like it should be a con save, but it may be a charisma save. And I was like, dude, that's insane.
Yes, that is it. And Butch was almost Baleful Polymorphed last night. I made the saving throw. Luckily.
Dude,
that was the one that I made. The one. All my other wisdom saving throws. Well, no, it was a wisdom saving throw. It wasn't charisma.
Okay, it was charisma. Okay. Cool. Yeah, so I think we're in agreement. I mean, unless I'm wrong, in our better future game campaign world, I'm fine with Magic being a dominant force at really high level. I mean, I don't want to have 10,000 Elminsters running around, but I don't have an issue if the most powerful character that ever runs in that campaign happens to be a wizard or cleric. I think is reasonable.
Right. Okay. So you can look at it like in our present day with technology. If someone decides to refuse to use technology, like say the Amish, compared to someone who's using technology, who can accomplish things faster or more efficiently? Probably the technology users or the higher technology users. The Amish still use technology. It's just lower tech.
To be fair, though, the Amish products are pretty nice.
They are nice. They have really good craftsmanship.
Yep.
And all that. But and they get along fine.
Yes.
They get along fine within their sphere with what they are concerned with.
Premium products.
Right. So as long as they're okay with not using cars, which they are, they use buggies and horse-drawn carriages. They can still get around, just not as fast. I wonder they have to feed the animal that pulls them along and care for it.
I wonder if economically they're the Monty Cook of economics. Premium products for a premium price, but they don't sell as much as someone that. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good comparison. That's a good comparison. Just joking. He makes premium role-playing game products because they're all super pricey. The Invisible Sun box set was what, $200-300. So, but it might be good. I don't know. Doesn't sound good.
I don't know. I think with that, the word premium is probably getting stretched out of recognition.
Okay. Oh, all right, bud.
All right. Well, if we are ready to end.
Yeah, I think so, man.
All right. Well, please share, like, and review our podcast on Anchor and everywhere you get your podcast at, if you would please do so. If you'd like to support our show, please check out our website, biggestgeekestpodcast.com, and click on the support tab. Any contribution is much appreciated, and we thank you for consideration. If you have questions, email us at questions@biggestgeekestpodcast.com, and you can also leave us a voicemail on Anchor. We haven't brought that up much.
I know. Well, now that John Allen Large has commented on us, we need to, make people know that. That's really cool that he did that. And again, I would suggest you listen to the Red Dice Diaries and Che Webster's Roleplay Rescue if you got the time or interest. They're two very good role-playing podcasts.
Yes, definitely. Do that. I have listened to the Red Dice Diaries. It is good.
Oh, and Radio
Grok. They've moved, I don't know if they moved wholly or partially into the actual play realm, but
who's that?
Thinking of Red Dice Diaries. They have some actual plays. I think so.
I've not listened to those, so yeah.
Yeah, me either. I'm not not downing anybody who does them. They're just not my thing.
Yeah, I'm not a Critical Role guy or anything like that, but
right.
If you like it, do it.
Yeah, do it. All right. That being said, this is Joe.
And I'm Randy.
And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.